In this practice, I'll be integrating Ayurveda and yoga, specifically the Pitta Dosha and awareness of the Pitta season of life, the Pitta season of the year, the Pitta time of day, the Pitta-oriented culture that you might live in, and your personal Pitta Dosha as well. There are some susceptibilities with the Pitta Dosha and how it pulls us out of balance, and there are ways to bring that back into balance. So the sequence of this practice is to use pranayama as a tool, a medicinal tool, from the start of the practice through the end of the practice, and then to choose physical asanas and practices that help to bring Pitta Dosha back into its right size fire in the body, its purposeful fire in the body. Let me know how you experienced the class. You can always leave questions or comments down below. And as always, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel so we can keep sending you more really good content related to yoga and Ayurveda. Thanks for being here. Let's get into the practice now. See you there. And good morning once again. So welcome for practice. This morning, I'd like to be addressing and integrating how we look at Ayurveda and yoga throughout the course of a practice where the practice is medicine. It's medicinal for your body and your brain, your mind, and your heart. So of course, there's other ways to practice yoga, like it can feel really fun and maybe acrobatic or athletic. And that's also wonderful as a way to engage with the yoga tradition. When we're looking at integrating yoga and Ayurveda and making this a medicinal practice, one of the things that I really like to say about that is that it then becomes a self-healing, self-empowering practice. We're able to understand kind of the science and the medicine of Ayurveda and yoga, and then apply that to ourselves and how we live our lives, not just on the mat, but also off the mat. So to get underway, let's acknowledge that we're in the Pitta season of the year. We're in the Pitta part of the day, and most of us are in the Pitta culture here in the West. And for lots of us in this particular class, you're still in the Pitta phase of life. I'm in the Vata phase of life now, because that Pitta phase of life for females and equivalent for males is from when the menstrual cycle begins until menopause. And so since I'm past menopause, I'm in the Vata phase of life. My birthday's coming up next month, and I suppose for some people it would seem young to be in the Vata phase of life, 55 years old, because in our culture, we tend to associate Vata is like when you're retired or, 70 and past. But actually, if we live our Pitta season well, if we're really thoughtful about that, how we get to experience our Vata season is so much more beneficial. So whether you're in the Pitta phase of life or the Vata phase of life in class today, or maybe you're still in the Kapha phase of life, so you're quite young trying this class on, the practice will still be suited to living in a predominantly Pitta culture, in the Pitta season of the year, in the Pitta time of day. So we don't want to exacerbate Pitta Dosha right now. Right? So please take a comfortable seat, and you can rest your hands in your lap. You're welcome to close your eyes. Pitta governs the eyes as well as your throat, metabolism, and digestion. So actually, just closing the eyes is a wonderful way to give Pitta your first direction. You can ask Pitta Dosha to come in and to drop down. Its seat in the body is in your stomach, the small intestine. Pitta Dosha also is supported by the water and fire elements, so the second and third chakra, though we often associate Pitta primarily with the third chakra. It also does include the second. Welcome your breathing to help you drop your mind and your Pitta Dosha to go inward and downward. Relax any unnecessary tension in the belly so that you'll be able to receive your inhalation. When we're able to simply receive the inhalation, we begin trusting more the intelligence of the body. In this case, the intelligence of your diaphragm. You have a main diaphragm that most of us know of as the diaphragm. We also have a pelvic floor diaphragm and then a throat or vocal diaphragm. As you simply receive the inhalation, imagine the diaphragm, the primary diaphragm, having its influence on your body as something benevolent, an invitation. In this case, the invitation is to become more internally oriented. Notice where your inhale begins in the deep part of the pelvic basin. And there can be a gentle sense of expanding in the inner body. First, your lower abdomen, mid-abdomen, the upper abdomen, including the back and the sides of the torso. And perhaps the breath will be long enough to expand up into the heart, the space between your shoulder blades, and maybe even to sense a little lift at the collarbone. And once you feel confident that you've been receiving the breath, not directing it, then you can begin to partner with the breath. So your inhale can gradually increase in dimension, in quantity perhaps, and in length, in its duration. And then for the exhale, also lengthening the exhale by slowing down the first portion of your exhale, not waiting until the last portion of your exhale. Pitta has an inclination to feel urgent or pressured, to be in a hurry. And so pay careful attention to the uppermost part of your inhale, the pause that happens there, and the beginning of the exhale, as if that part of the exhale was a decrescendo, as if your breath were a sound wave. So pay close attention to the final crescendo of the inhale, the pause, and the beginning of the descent of the decrescendo. Make that part of your breath even more elegant right now. By practicing in this way, you are notifying the Pitta Dosha that you're not in a hurry. There is no urgency. No need to feel pressured right now. And doing your best to keep that same kind of cadence to the breath. Let's add a little gentle twist. So there's going to be a momentary constriction on the torso, and that will require your body to make the breath elegant, smooth, and strong. So bring your left hand across to your right knee. This doesn't have to be your deepest twist ever. Put the right hand behind you. And as you're twisting to your right, keep your pelvis stable. Turn from your mid-torso and your heart. You can also turn your head. Continue to give that extra attention at the top of the crescendo of the inhale and beginning of the decrescendo of the exhale. Let's do that for 3 more breath cycles. Next exhale, come around to face forward. Relax the breath completely and just notice what it's been like to focus on slowing down the first portion of the exhale and making that particular transition from inhale to exhale really elegant. How is that influencing your mind, your body? And then cross your right hand over your left knee, walk the left hand around behind. And as you twist to your left in that rotation, again, does not need to be the deepest twist that you've done. It's a twist to add a little bit of constriction to your torso, to encourage you to maintain an elegant breath, not to shift into a kind of forceful or coercive breath. And then with your next exhale, rotate around to face forward. And again, relax the breath and the practice of the breath and simply allow yourself to be breathed. And then please raise your hands to your heart. And we'll chant on behalf of the third chakra and the Pitta Dosha. We're going to chant the Gayatri mantra. And one of the translations in this mantra is, may we remember the intelligence, the beauty and the intelligence of the whole cosmos, of which we are a part. So one of the things about Pitta Dosha is it feels like it has to be uber responsible, and it has a capacity for a keen mind. And so sometimes it becomes like the leader, or the feeling that it has to be the leader, and it forgets the larger intelligence that's also operating. When Pitta becomes like tunnel vision, it has that liability. So we'll chant the Gayatri mantra. May we respect and even appreciate and admire the great forces of nature, especially the sun, Surya. And remember that this intelligence and beauty that we see all around us is also within us. Om Bhuvasvaha Tatsavitor Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayata. Om Bhuvasvaha Tatsavitor Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayata. Om Bhuvasvaha Tatsavitor Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayata. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha Hari Om. With your exhale, you may bow your head to your heart. Release your hands, open your eyes. So in this short pranayama practice, I know that for some of you, it may have felt difficult or could even have caused breathlessness, even though the practice seems like it's really simple. And that would be because if in daily life, you have become someone who's what we call over breathing, so the numbers of breath cycles that you take in 1 minute are excessive, and your body isn't having a good exchange between O2 and CO2, then the ratio in your body is going to be promoting an imbalance. And so as you come to pranayama, it might feel like, oh, I can't get quite a deep breath, or I can't slow my breath down that much. And so what we're going to do right now is a kind of off-gassing technique to see if it makes it easier for you. We will then address the neck and shoulders and the upper thoracic spine here, because when we tend towards overbreathing, we also tend towards chest breathing. So let's see what we can do for off-gassing and then releasing tension here, and then go back and see if the other practice is accessible and easeful and you have harmony about it. Okay, so for this blowing off, what we'll do is 5 strong exhales, 1 long exhale. Then we're going to inhale through the nose. We'll hold that for a few moments, and then we're going to exhale like we're sighing. At the end of that, you're going to totally relax. And then we'll repeat that about 5 times total. Okay, so like this. Breathe in through the nose. You're going to hold the breath. Use the bandhas. Release as you're ready to, and exhale out through the nose like you're sighing. Allow your body to relax. There's a little recalibration going on. Now we're going to repeat again. When you're ready, when your body says yes to it, you can repeat. You'll breathe in through the nose. Release in your own timing. Release like you're sighing, so you're not lengthening the exhale, you're not pressuring it in any way. Allow your brain and body to recalibrate. You're giving some messages right now by the breath, so let those messages be heard. And then repeating when you're ready to. Breathe in. Release when you're ready to. And deeply relax. When you're ready to, you can repeat again. In each pause, as you're recalibrating, let your mind and body consider this infinite intelligence created the entire cosmos, including you, the bumblebee, the nasturtium, the seahorse. Let's do this one more time. At the bottom of that exhale, again, deeply relax and stay in that restful mode for several moments. You'll notice that your body will breathe you. Now bring the back of your left hand across the outside of your right knee and make it the back of the hand because it's going to orient your shoulder like this. And then it's going to tip the upper torso down to the left. Okay, so that is going to just momentarily squeeze the left side waist, including the descending colon. We're really interested in the upper chest and heart here. So turn your chest and heart a little bit to your right. And then bring your chin slightly in towards your throat as you allow the left ear to get heavy. Now, as you breathe into the right side of the torso, think of expanding the right hemisphere of your torso, including the lower third, the mid third, and the upper third of the torso. Okay, so if that's feeling like easeful and you can bring the breath into the first, middle, and upper third, then wrap your right arm around behind the small of your back. It's going to change the position of your right shoulder. You may feel this a little bit more in the right side of your neck. On the exhale, consider allowing your left ear to get a little heavier or the left shoulder a little heavier, the curve of the torso a little more to the left, thereby expanding your right floating ribs and even the right upper ribs in your thoracic spine. Okay, and then with an inhalation, come back up to center, raise up, release your hands to your lap. You might feel asymmetrical and a little bit swimmy. That's okay. Then bring the back of your right hand across the outside of your left knee or left thigh. Yeah. And as you cross there, it's going to orient your torso to tip down a little bit to your right. And in that tip, you might find that you can further secure your right wrist over the outside of your left thigh. So as you're tipping down, allow your right ear to get heavy. Now we're opening the left hemisphere of the torso, so lower third, middle third, and upper thirds of the breath. Allow the breath we have a kind of permission for the breath, an allowance for the breath, but also a partnership. So now you can imagine the breath expanding those three regions of the left side of the torso. And if that feels comfortable, you can try wrapping your left arm around behind the small of your back. With the exhale, invite your right ear to get heavier, right shoulder to get heavier. And you can picture the expansion of your left rib cage, not only the mid ribs at the side, but also the thoracic region of the rib cage too. And then with an inhale, bring yourself back up to center. And having addressed that region of the body and done the blowing off technique, now notice what's happening with your mind. Watch your mind for these first few moments because it's going to be going through a kind of recalibration here. And now let's see if the inhale in the sound wave and the exhale, can the last part of the inhale be more elegant? The inhale pause, spacious, and the first part of the exhale, more elegant and a little bit slower. The first portion of the exhale, there's a magic that happens in there. So let's try that just for about 5 breath cycles. As you're breathing in, you might lightly kind of count the length of the inhale. Let's say for you, it's 8 or 10 or something like that, or maybe it's 4. And when the exhale begins, to extend the count, I recommend that you say to yourself, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 5, like that. So you're giving that extra beat the word and therefore at the end of the exhale, the number you arrive at might be the same as the inhale. My hope is that we're discouraging striving at the end of the exhale. Okay, and then you may release the practice. If you've done 5 breath cycles, you're welcome to open your eyes and reconnect here. So let's see if we can carry that kind of breathing practice into some more physical asana, right? So taking it into like a standing practice and then a seated practice. We're still hoping to balance the Pitta Dosha because we haven't moved yet from the Pitta time of day. In fact, we're here from about 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So it's a period of the day to be thoughtful about your activities. So we're going to come up to standing. And for me to meet you in standing, I'm going to go back to my mat. Okay, so for the standing practice, take a wide stance on your mat. And this width is the length of one of your legs. Doesn't have to be an Olympic distance, can just be the length of your leg. So for me, it's not as big of a distance. Come forward and down to Prasarita Padottanasana. As you come down, lightly touch the floor with your fingertips and allow your head and your torso to cascade down. And let's check in just this first position. Are you able to have the breath as it just was when you were sitting? So that is that the inhale, the top of the inhale is very elegant. The beginning of the exhale is also very elegant. Continue with the breath and go ahead and walk your fingertips forward. Stretch them out so you're on your fingertips. Lift the centers of your palms. Lift the inner edge of the forearms, the inseam of the upper arms, and also lift your upper inner shoulders so that the outer shoulder blades roll down around the side of the rib cage and you broaden the back of your heart. Remind yourself that you can count the first part of the exhale as 1 and 2 and that helps to slow down and make more concentration and elegance right there. Now, while keeping this, we're going to maintain the right arm out in front, but bring your left hand under to hold your right ankle or your clothing on the right side or the outside of your foot or whatever is within reach for you.
And as you reach across, I'm going to ask you to lean back into the shoulder blades. So don't pull yourself towards your right leg, but rather twist to your right and lean a little bit back into the back hemisphere of your body. While keeping your legs stable, let's make the breath also a source of stability. Now, because you've added a twist here, there's going to be a little constriction on the torso. The breath length may not be exactly the same, but your attitude can carry over. So really smooth at the top of the inhalation, really smooth in the pause, and very elegant in the first portion of your exhale. And then with your next exhale, rotate back to center, walk the left fingertips forward to match the right. Let's take the right arm underneath, reach over to hold the outside of your foot, your ankle, your shin, your clothing, a yoga strap. And then as you start rotating to your left, lean back into the back hemisphere of your body. We hope that the legs were stable. So your legs and pelvis should not have shifted left or right. And that means that you'll have a kind of honest experience of your twist. Keeping the breath consistent, please do 2 more breath cycles. With your next exhale, then bring your right fingertips back. And so they match the left fingertips. Now reaching your hips back, please bend both knees. Keep the knees about as wide as the feet are right now. And as you reach your hips back towards the wall behind you, see if the inhale might feel really elegant at the top and the exhale really patient in the first portion of the exhale. And then inhale and straighten both legs by rooting down from your hips into your heels and toes. Walk your hands back towards your hips and please rise up to standing. And let's go heel toe until you're standing in mountain pose. When you get to mountain pose, remember to reflect on that intelligence that is like seahorses, hummingbirds, and you, and your eyelashes, and this thing, this magical thing that's breathing you. So now we're going to do a practice when we go down to that forward bend. We're going to walk to the right. We'll come back to center. We'll walk to the left. So it's going to be moving the side torso. And since Pitta governs your digestion and is often associated with the third chakra, though it also includes the second, we're going to be moving this region of the body right through here. Pitta's seat in your body is also in the stomach and the small intestine. So we'll give that a little juice as well. So take a wide stance the length of one leg. Come forward and down. Walk your fingers out in front. As you walk out, reach your hips back and let's make a commitment that both legs are going to be straight and strong. And then walk your hands to your right as far as they will comfortably go without shifting your hips or your legs. Relax the weight of your head. And if you haven't yet, then return to the breath, noticing how the top of the inhale prepares you for the inhale pause, and that prepares you for the exhale. Now we've walked over here to the side. Keep your hips and legs grounded. And as you have your left hand on the floor where it happens to be, now raise your right arm around the small of your back and add a little twist of your upper torso. So lift your torso slightly and then rotate to your right. And see if you can keep the hips and pelvis centered and stable. And then with an exhale, release back down, place your right fingertips where your left fingertips are, walk yourself over to the other side, that is to your left. And as you walk over, try to keep the hips centered and stable. One thing to be aware of is you probably have to nudge your right hip back towards the wall behind you. Now, as you've walked to the side, picture the breath expanding the right side of the torso. So that's going to include the right lower belly, the ascending colon, the right floating ribs, the rib cage and the thoracic region on your right side, perhaps even the back of your heart. Now, keeping your right arm where it is, if you'd like to add the twist, wrap your left arm around behind the small of your back. Check that your hips are level. You can do that with your hand. And then pick up the torso a few degrees and rotate to your left. And as you exhale, come back down, walk your fingertips to center once more where we began. Reach your hips back, bend both knees, take the hips back and down while keeping your knees as wide as your feet are. And then with an inhale, press from your hips into your heels, straighten your legs, walk your hands back to your hips, rise up to standing. And as you come up to stand, bring the heels in and the toes out. I call this the jazz dance warm-up pose because it reminds me of jazz dance class, which I never attended. Didn't happen. I didn't go to ballet class either. I went to ecstatic dance, just freestyle dance. So in this case, what we're doing now, we were in that twist, and you might wonder, well, how come we didn't pick up the arm? Why don't we twist and sort of glorify it or decorate it? When you raise your arms up like that, it's the inclination then is for the Vata dosha to go up, and Vata will tend to take Pitta with it. And Pitta can also become kind of like striving when you pick up the arm to see, well, how far can I twist? So on purpose, we kept the arm down around the small of the back. Right. So here we're also sitting down low in the hips and the pelvis. And that's to give your body a sense of coming back down, not going up and out with either Pitta or Vata dosha. So gaze towards the floor in front of you. And then considering this mid-torso, root your tailbone down so the back of the waist should feel broad. Take the left hand, turn it in. And as you twist to your right, please keep both arms straight. So that the twist means that you're not leaning towards your right knee. In fact, you can sense yourself to be more in the back hemisphere of the body. As you breathe now, I'm going to ask you to notice the left lower back and the left side waist, but consider including your left kidney and your left adrenal gland in your awareness. For reference, those are under your floating ribs, right behind your diaphragm. Make the first part of the exhale a little slower on purpose, so you're honing your concentration. And then come back to center, turn the left hand back out, turn the right hand in, rotate to your left. You're welcome to gaze over your left shoulder, but you could also close your eyes if you prefer.
Do one more breath cycle, keeping that consistent focus on the elegance in the sound wave. And come back to center, press into both heels, slowly straighten your legs, rise up and let's go toe, heel, toe, heel, toe, heel, back to center into mountain pose. And when you come up, notice that your body's going to send circulation down into your legs. And the mind can also go down in the same regard. And that means that Pitta and Vata dosha are coming down. They tend to pull you up and out, so they're going down. Okay, and then please come down to the floor. It'll be helpful if you have something to sit on. Let's see, anything else that we need? No, that's good. It is going to be helpful to have two blocks for a certain part of the practice. So when you come down to the floor, take a seat with the soles of your feet together in Baddha Konasana. Reach for your toes or your ankles, whatever you'd like to hold on to. Press your knees down. Not by using your hands, just by pressing them down from the outer hips. Good, okay. Now as you're lengthening up through your spine, lift your collarbones, holding on to your feet or ankles. If you have shorter arms like I do, that means that your arms are pretty straight, right? If the torso is longer and the arms are shorter, this is a pretty straight experience right now. If you have a longer set of arms, hopefully they match, and a shorter torso, your arms might not be straight right now. But do your best for everyone to have this feeling that you're lifting the collarbones up, shoulders back, and then lift your chin, open your throat. Pitta governs the throat, so open the throat, lift the chin up. Keeping the arms taut, press your knees down as you raise your collarbones and your chin. And then exhale and gaze to your right, turn your head to your right, bring your chin towards your right shoulder. And then inhale, go up. And exhale, go left and down to the left shoulder and the chin. They get to know each other. And then inhale, left and up. Okay, let's make the head neutral now and come forward in Baddha Konasana. I think a lot of people, their throat is kind of tight from looking down so much at the phone or the way they have their head forward on their computer posture. So it's helpful to release your throat muscles from time to time and release the energy that they're holding, the tension that they might be holding. As you come forward now in Baddha Konasana, feel free to release your feet and even to walk your hands forward. And then return your awareness to the sound wave of the breath. The upper portion of the inhale gets you extra attention. The beginning of the exhale, a little slower, more concentration there. And walk your hands back towards your knees, up to your feet, and then hands to the knees and raise your knees up. So we're going to have the feet just parallel right now and hip distance apart like this. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so in this position, when we lean slightly back, so you've got your hands over your knees and you lean back, your torso is going to be like at a 45-degree angle, right? Not a totally upright angle. So that means that the space between the torso and the thighs is more open. So this is a more open twist. Bring the left arm up and then cross your left arm to the outside of your right knee without the knees kind of getting all wonky or pushing to the side. So keep your knees, hips, and feet stable. Cross over here. You're probably at the back side of your hand. walk your right hand behind you. And as your torso is leaning back, twist to your right and open the chest and the heart. So you can almost have the feeling like there's a little back bend in the heart, but without exploiting the floating ribs. So don't just push the floating ribs forward to try to get up with the heart. Lift your heart from the inside. And keeping the knees stable, focus on the rotation of the twist here in the belly, kind of like in your innards, if I could say that about you. You have innards, so do I. So it's not a judgment word, just an observation. So as you're twisting, look over your right shoulder now. Roll the right shoulder back. So both shoulder blades slide down the upper back. And use the first part of the exhale to slow down your breath. And then see if you can keep this angle of the torso. You're 45 degrees back, and bring your hands out over your knees, or if you've got shorter arms and this is better for you, you can even bend the elbows like that. This is an option too. And then raise your right arm up and cross over to the outside of your knee. And as you're rotating, walk the left hand behind. There's a little lean back and a little bit of a back bend. Raise up and turn to your left. Okay, again, without exploiting your floating ribs and while rotating the inner belly. Your innards, to say it again, your innards, you're rotating those. And you could think about, wow, how amazing that these organs are in there. And that divine intelligence that made the seahorse and the hummingbird also made your liver and your kidneys and the ileocecal valve, all the things that are in there. And then exhale, come around, see if you can keep the angle of the torso so you lean back like this. You're at about 45 degrees back, and it should feel restful actually. Then bring your torso up until it's vertical. And now we'll take the left knee out and bring the right knee snugly in. So this is much more of a compressed twist, right? This experience of the thigh against the torso is influencing your ascending colon. It's also going to make the twist a little bit more snug, more flexion for your spine. So wrap your left hand around your right shin and then rotate the inner belly first. So really think of it that you're rotating down low first. And in some cases, it's helpful to move the skin and the belly across with your hand. Sometimes I move my clothing so I don't feel tangled. And as you're rotating, you can decide if you're going to keep your left hand at the outside of your right shin and then broaden the heart and turn. Or you could take the left arm and hook it over the outside of your right knee. And I like this mudra that I do sometimes. Now, if you've chosen to put your arm on the outside, you should feel like it's benefiting your twist, not like it's an awkward decoration. And then you can turn your head also to your right. Now notice when there's compression on the abdomen, what happens with that upper curve in the sound wave of the breath? And how can you feel like personally responsible for the best outcome from your practice right now? We don't want the twist to be creating tension. It does cause a constriction on purpose. That is to help strengthen your breathing and also massage the organs in the abdomen, but don't let it create tension, striving, or coercion. With your exhale, Go ahead and rotate around to face forward. Let's bring the left knee up to meet the chest and the torso. So what we say now is when both knees are up, you can wrap the arms if you can reach them. This is for your transverse colon. For a long time, I was very confused about this transverse colon. Where is the transverse colon? And I didn't even know what the colon looked like. I was just such a young student of yoga, and I was like, okay, right side, left side. And I picture that the transverse colon was where your lap belt goes in the car. I didn't know. It's fun to discover things about your body. It's also liberating to realize what we got wrong. Oh, goodness. Okay, so this is for the transverse colon when you have the knees both into the chest. Now let's keep the left knee in and take the right leg out. So the stomach delivers its contents to the small intestine like this, all amazing how long that tube would be if it was out here, going down the road. So the stomach gives to the small intestine then gives to the ascending colon, transverse colon across the upper abdomen, and then the descending colon. So now we go for the descending colon. Rotate your torso to your left, swish the lower belly across, and you can choose to hold your hand on the outer shin, or you may prefer to bring your right arm across. And I use this mudra. If you like it, you can use it. If it feels like a decoration versus a purposeful kind of mental focus, then check your intention for doing it and see if it could encourage you to have mental focus. And you can turn your head to your left. These twisting poses are such important medicine. So give yourself the luxury of that inhale, becoming the inhale pause, becoming the slowed down initial part of the exhale. And then exhale and come around to face forward. Okay, and bring both knees up to your chest. For symmetry, wrap your arms, transverse colon, and close the eyes and just bring your gaze and your attention inward and downward. Okay, and now we'll explore a pose. I believe the name is Marichyasana. And then I cannot remember if it's A, B, C, or D, Marichyasana A, B, C, or D. And this is because when I was studying this form of yoga called Ashtanga yoga, there were so many forms of the poses. I was new to yoga and new to Sanskrit, and I had a hard time sorting out Matsyendrasana from Marichyasana and Ardha Matsyendrasana from Matsyendrasana, and then Dhanurshirsasana, I guess A, B, C, D, or 1, 2, 3, 4, and then Marichyasana A, B, C, D, 1, 2. I was just getting confused. And because I didn't stay in that tradition long enough, I don't have a solid recall of what it is. However, I'm very fond of this particular pose, and I've been using it a lot since my own recovery with my concussion, which in my case, my concussion had exacerbations of both Pitta and Vata dosha. Because of the nature of my concussion, my existing dosha, and my stage of life when I got the concussions. The first one, I was still in the Pitta phase of life. I was 51. And the second one, I was in the Vata phase of life. I was 53. So they were in close proximity to each other. So this pose I'm using a lot to help Vata and Pitta come down. So bring your right knee up to your chest. Place the left hand as a support. Raise your right arm. And then exhale and come forward and down. And you may hold your right hand on your left heel if you can reach it. You also could use a yoga strap for that purpose. Bow your torso forward. You can give a little support from your left arm to help you bring the torso forward. Do your best to keep your right hip stable on the floor, and for the right knee not to wander too wildly out to the side. And notice if you relax the weight of your head and you just observe the breath, your purposeful, elegant breath, notice where it expands across the back of your body. And as you sense the cadence of the breath, see if you might imagine yourself as nourishing the organs of digestion and elimination, and also nourishing the kidneys and the adrenals. For anyone who'd like to, if the right shin is in snugly enough, you can wrap your right arm around your outer shin, the small of your back, and then wrap your left arm around to hold so that your right and left hand meet behind you. Notice that the nature of the pose is more inward. It's an introverted pose, not an extroverted pose. Allow your breathing and your mind to both slow down. And then with an inhalation, whether you have the hands clasped or not, please raise back up to sitting. You might raise the right arm on the way up. That's just to elongate the spine and then lower that down. And now as you take your right leg and straighten it out next to your left leg, just like when we were standing, there's going to be this circulation that goes down the legs. So give a few moments of attention just to that. Close your eyes. Imagine that you're witnessing this intelligence of the cosmos right there in your blood cells. And then bring your left knee up to your chest. Getting the mischief over here out of sight. Okay, so raise the left arm only to lengthen this the torso and the sideways. And then slide down past your left upper inner thigh. Hold your ankle or your heel if you can reach that. It's always fine to use a yoga strap to support yourself. As you're coming forward, you may notice this stretch in different places in the musculoskeletal body, and that's, of course, interesting and relevant. But place your primary focus on what is happening with your breathing. Notice that the pose is more introverted, and you may choose to keep your left arm out in front, or you could wrap the left arm around the small of your back, and then you might reach your right hand around to hold your left. And picture that you're nourishing the organs of digestion and elimination, but also the kidneys and the adrenals right behind your diaphragm.
And then release your pose as you're ready to. And you may choose to use the inhale to lengthen the spine. You might raise your left arm. And then release. And let's take the left leg out next to the right leg. And again, you're likely to notice there's going to be this warming or circulation that goes down your leg. So give yourself the chance to be with that. So that particular pose, Asana, is a helpful precursor to Malasana, but it's also that Malasana could be a precursor to Asana. So we're going to do Malasana, which is in English, we would call it garland pose. If you think of the word mala as the garland of beads, Malasana is garland pose. But in English, we also call it the squatting pose. So come over to your squatting position. And what I'm going to do for mine is to put my heels on my bolster because I do not have flexible ankles. And therefore, if I have nothing under my heels in my squat, I would fall backwards. I don't have flexible ankles. I mean, I have flexible most everything else, but not flexible ankles. It's kind of a design issue. And then let's take the knees a little bit out to the side. So your squat, you're going to come down between the inner thighs. And so as you're squatting low, feel free to walk your hands forward and allow the breath to come down into the lower abdomen and the pelvis. You might wonder how this becomes a garland, how this pose is called a garland. I will explain, and for those of you who'd like to do it, you can. I will not be able to demonstrate because I've never attained the pose called garland pose, though I have enjoyed squatting, which is what we're doing right now. So in garland pose, you would walk your hands both around the fronts of your shins, and then you would weave your hands around the outsides of your thighs, and your hands would meet at the small of your back. So there'd have to be, like, for me, more arm length, more shoulder flexibility, and less leg. I would need fewer leg muscles. So it's not something that I've ever accomplished, and I'm okay with my progress in that regard. So in this squatting pose, go ahead and smile at your unique design, the one that you got. And to the best of your ability, you're doing yoga with this design. Now let's start to bring the knees back up to center them in the squat. So now we're going to have it so that when you're squatting, you've got your knees up to your chest. Okay, so it's pretty snug. Let's take the elbows and wrap them around. That's also good for your transverse colon. And then come a little bit forward into a pose we call toe balance. So what you're going to be doing is picking up the heels, bring your knees a little bit forward. Let's keep the torso for this variation on toe balance. Keep the torso and the thighs close. Swoosh your torso to your right. Hook the outside of your left arm around your right knee. You may go ahead and touch the floor if you like. Wrap your right arm around behind the small of your back and twist to your right. For anybody who'd like to, you could put your your right hand on the top of the left thigh, so it goes between your left side waist and your left thigh. And then exhale and come back around to this sort of variation on toe balance pose where the torso and the thighs are touching. We're slightly leaned forward from where we were in the squat. Take your left hand to your left thigh, swoosh your belly across your lap, wrap your right arm over. And as you place the right hand on the floor, go ahead and swoosh your belly to the left. Wrap your left arm around behind the small of your back. And as you're twisting left, try to keep the breath elegant and supportive. And then exhale, come back around to center, lower your heels and return to the squat where you've got the knees snug to the chest. And then come down onto your hips. Take the legs out straight. Sorry for the noise on the recording there, my heels on the yoga mat. Now we're going to turn horizontally for me. You're going to lie on your back. This is where the two blocks come in handy. So have them nearby. So lie on your back and spend a few moments noticing that when you lie down, all of this circulation that you had in the belly is now going to go down the legs. Allow for that movement, that circulation. You can't really prevent it anyway, but let it be captivating to your mind that you're really following that stream all the way down to the feet, which are going to start having your heartbeat pulsing there. And then bend both knees. You're going to place your feet flat on the floor. So the most basic form of this pose is that you'll put the soles of the feet together, the knees go out to the side, and we rest. And here, without having anything under the spine, your lower back is likely to move towards the floor, to soften in that direction. And that can be very comforting for some. And then for others, a second phase of this pose is to put the bolster or a folded blanket under. So that goes lengthwise down your yoga mat. You do not sit on the bolster. When you lie back on the bolster, it supports the curve of your lumbar spine. And then the soles of the feet are together. And here, one of the benefits is that this feeling that the energy is still moving down and kind of gathering in this pelvic basin here. So this version of the pose is we tend to use it more often for pregnancy and also for the menstrual cycle. And also for when people feel like their body has just become so depleted and they need to refill this reservoir of vitality in here. So that may be your way to go. If you have a bolster, that's always a nice yoga prop to have. Take your arms out to the side. Let's do palms face up. If you like this mudra for concentration, go ahead and touch the index finger and the thumb together. And allow the mind to get more quiet and also more inward now. You can imagine the beauty, the intelligence of the cosmos. We experience sunrise and sunset in our language, but actually our planet is rotating towards the sun and then away from the sun. And so picture your body right now having the sunset part of your physical practice. Let all actions fade and all efforts can dissolve. We're simply giving it back to that kind of raw intelligence of life. We're surrendering. You might use the phrase or the practice called Ishvari Pranidhana, which is one of the niyamas. So after all this effort, we're giving it back to the divine, Ishvari Pranidhana. We're giving all of our actions back over
to that source from which they came. As you're releasing the actions and the efforts, as you're coming to rest, check a few of the key points, like the corners of the eyes, your tongue, the sides of your neck, your heart, the solar plexus, the inner abdomen, inner groin, the feet, and allow your mind and your body to keep dropping in. Surrender to this larger intelligence. You're not the one making it all happen, nor is it all relying upon you. get a few degrees quieter for the last minute here of resting. Also encourage this mental quiet to become more memorable. Might wiggle your fingers and your toes. Take a slightly deeper breath in to the belly. Let's raise the knees up. And put one of the blocks aside and roll down to your right. Rise up to your seat. As you come to your seat, make it your physical and mental seat. Both. Rest your hands in your lap. You're welcome to close your eyes. You could again choose to put the hands in this mudra if you like for concentration. Palms face down tends to be more grounding, more inward. Palms face up will tend to be more receptive, a little bit more outwards. And notice now the quality of the mind, the feeling tone of your mind and your body. You have a sense of the medicine of the practice or its inward echo within you. What is it inspiring on the inside? Not only the inside of the mind, but also the inside of the body.
appreciation for this chance to practice and to align again with the inner intelligence of life, which you are a part of, and which it's all larger than you are at the same time. And with this appreciation, please raise your hands to your heart. And we pray that all beings everywhere, in the whole of the world, loka samasta, everyone and everything equally, will have access to ease and the attitude of harmony and happiness. For that to be possible, may everyone have access to the means of life, the resources that nourish them, and perhaps access to this kind of practice as well. Whatever the tradition might be, a kind of indigenous medicine practice of some kind. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you also to my teachers and my teachers' teachers. Namaste.
Thank you so much for sharing your practice with me and with the community in this way. If this practice was valuable to you, please hit the like button. If you have questions or comments, please leave those down below the video. I'd love to see you in another class, so please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and let us know what we can do for you to help you with your yoga practice. Thank you once again. Namaste.